Okay, here we go. Good evening, everyone. Welcome. We are on night three of our wonderful PC build here. It's going splendidly so far. The first night we got screwed, literally, as we were having issues with making sure the right screws were going in the motherboard. I actually haven't checked today if I got those motherboard screws from NZXT in the mail. Didn't even think about it. I've been kind of all sorts of busy. Then last night was pretty much entirely dedicated towards installing the water cooler, which originally wasn't supposed to take as long, but in my mind I had assumed that it would be on par of timing of installing a stock cooler, which of course is not at all how it works. So tonight though, we are going to start off with cable management. Since that's kind of where we left off last night, we were starting to get into it, and tonight we're going to finish it off. And the main thing is here, and I'm going to post this in the chat, that at any point tonight, anybody that hops in here, feel free to ask questions. The big thing on here is that while we're doing this build here, we're mostly going to be focused around doing the cable management and then installing the GPU. If I have time left tonight, I'm going to be going ahead with starting to do some software installs, but the main goal for tonight is just to where we can get the post test, which are it's redundant. It means power on self test, but essentially where we get to the period of posting is our goal for tonight. Now, as a little bit of a preface on here, to kind of give everybody a roundup of what kind of happened, they might notice, keen eyes from last night might notice slight variations different. So after the stream last night, just to expedite things as much as possible, I went ahead and plugged in some of the power cords from the power supply. Now, I did not necessarily do any of the cable management or all of that. I just wanted to get them hooked up so that way we can kind of proceed to plugging them into the motherboard and getting all the cable management handled. The only one I believe I plugged in was, I believe I plugged in one of the Molex connectors, that sort of thing. Also, while I installed the M2 drive, I also felt it would have been fair, it's fair if we cover the installation of other hard drives, which is why I'm going to be doing a demonstration on installing a standard 3.5 inch mechanical hard drive. It's a good old-fashioned Western Digital Blue 1 terabyte, which will be in my computer build. This is kind of a bulk storage guy that I've had for a while. And then also, and I was toying around just to make sure I had it right. Yes, I tinker even off stream. We'll also be installing a, let's make sure it's flipped right side up, a Samsung regular SATA solid state drive, not to be confused with the M2 solid state drive that's already on the motherboard. That's that little tiny guy you saw me install the first night. So let me go ahead and get this switched over to our first camera here. Actually, we're going to go with the side view tonight so you can see the big mess of cords. I'm going to very carefully move my microphone back over here because this makes it a little bit less painful for working. Alright, so like I said, last night I went through and I just plugged in a lot of the cords that we're going to be using here. So we have our 4-pin CPU power, and it's labeled quite nicely. Then we have two 8-pin PCI power ports. Now, you'll notice on these, they are 8-pin, but 2 of the pins break off. And that's just designed to kind of be versatile, because I believe, as we'll see on the graphics card, it requires a 4-pin, or excuse me, it requires an 8-pin and a 6-pin power connector, which of course are both going to be these plugs. Then you guys already saw the big huge connector on here. Ooh, this guy's actually not even plugged in, so we're going to be plugging that back into into the power supply. But then we're also going to be handling all of the wiring and such. Now, when I was talking about, and I'll touch on the hard drive here. This is the old Samsung 750 500 gigabyte that I had in my old computer. That was kind of, I guess you could say, my main drive. Now, when you're installing hard drives, something that I kind of preface to everybody and I let them know, when you're installing them, it's good to run all the cords and the cables, but then I tell people, don't actually plug in the data cable, and you'll see what I'm talking about when I get there. So essentially the cabling, you will notice when we get to that point, we'll have a power cable, which we do want to hook up just because that guy's fixed. And then we have the data cable, which actually plugs into the motherboard. We're not going to be plugging in that second one, simply because of the fact that we actually only want one hard drive plugged in there at a time. Now, something else as I'm looking on here too, and this is something that you always want to be keen in observing. Now, this may not be an issue on here, but the rear I/O shield looks like it's a little bit off aligned, which means the motherboard may not be perfectly aligned. That shouldn't be a problem. All the ports are readily accessible, but if you ever notice that, you may have to go through and actually uninstall and reinstall the motherboard depending on how bad the misalignment is. If you can't get to ports, that's a major problem. So, but before we go that far, let me go ahead and show the other hard drive installation real quick. So we're gonna go and turn this guy all the way around here so you guys can see the front, because this is the first type of installation. Now, hard drives do go over here. This is a hard drive enclosure on here. If you guys remember yesterday, we uninstalled a bunch of the drive bays. In fact, we uninstalled all of them, but that's okay. Well, they easily go back in. But here in the front, this guy right here, these guys right here are actually removable brackets, and they just essentially slot in right here nice and easily, and then they affix with a thumb screw, just like so, and that keeps them held in place there quite nicely. Now, the thing is that if you notice, like, if you're having issues with these guys, the one thing you do want to remember is that these guys are not held in place that tightly. They are movable. The reason why I figured to mention this is because these little guys down here are not meant for mechanical hard drives. For example, a laptop 2.5 inch hard drive. This is a 500 gigabyte Western Digital black drive that I also have as another data storage backup. This mounted to a 3.5 inch bracket, which we're going to take off. That's not a problem. But the point is that this guy is a 2.5 inch drive. He could fit probably in one of these brackets. We do not want to put him in those brackets though, because they are not very secure. So whenever that disc in there starts spinning around, you're going to be hearing this rattling noise inside your case. And it's going to drive you fucking crazy. You don't want to do it. Keep these only for solid state drives. Same thing if you have, like say on the back of your computer, sometimes back behind the motherboard here, you behind this part right there, you'll actually see there might be a mounting for a solid state drive back there as well. Same thing. Those are only for solid state drives. Don't try to put laptop drives back there. They will rattle around like crazy. They will drive you nuts. And also, mechanical hard drives tend to get hotter than normal drives do. So you do want to bear that keenly in mind as you're actually installing those, is that mechanical hard drives, since they have moving parts, they actually get warmer. Some people may think solid state drives get warmer, but they actually do not. That is not the case. Now I'm unscrewing this this 2.5 inch because we're going to be mounting it into one of the drive bays later on, and I just want to have that guy ready to go. So I'm just real quickly unscrewing the screws I have on it, making use of my cheesy beezy screw holder. Okay. If I can get the screw out all the way. That is the important part, by the way. There we go. That's probably the loudest noise you guys will hear all night. So now we've got that guy free on there. And like I said, if you notice on here, I'm pretty certain that he would actually fit in here. And that's why I wanted to make sure I noted this. Yeah, he actually fits in that bracket just nicely. Despite him fitting in there, don't put him in there. Now, also, if you guys notice, I am using the rear one of these brackets, and that's mainly because when I first was tinkering with this guy, you'll notice my USB 3.0 cable plugged in here comes out really far, comes out all the way to here. That's actually going to very possibly get in the way of our SATA data connector that would also need to run up there. Now it's a close fit and it may have enough room, but instead of trying to really squeeze it in there, I'm going to actually just go the path of least resistance and mount it back on this guy here. So what I'm doing, I need, first of all, move him out of the way. I have my thumb screw I'm going to set right here. On the back of the computer, if you remember our preaching from yesterday was all about, you know, keep everything in the back and move forward only what you need. And that's what we're actually going to be doing. We're going to be moving forward just the SATA power connector. And like I said, we're not actually moving any of the data connectors front yet. We will do that later on. Oh. Okay. And I already know I have SATA power connectors in here because, well, made sure to account for those whenever I was hooking these all up. So I'm going to go ahead and run him right up front here. You guys will see this guy pop up. Although it's upside down, you want to make sure it's like this. Oh, they do not make that easy to put through there. Okay. There we go. Okay. That was more than a struggle than it probably should have been. Anyway, so now... And now, SATA power connectors, they're keyed so they can only go one way. Fortunately, and I had this brief moment of wondering as I was putting this through the back on here, if essentially it's kind of like shaped like a Tetris piece or the letter L, and the little leg of the L was pointing down. And I was hoping that would not be opposing this guy, and it's not. So fortunately enough, this will fit as expected. The big thing I've been discovering through this whole process of building this live on stream and making sure that everything I'm doing is clearly visible to you guys, and that's plugged in just like that. So I'm going to go ahead and stretch the cord back. Yeah, but the thing I notice is sometimes you have to get in really awkward angles in order to show you guys what I'm doing, so it's not like some secret hidden thing. And also the angling of this is tricky as hell. ahead. So something I'm noticing on here really quickly is we're gonna have to do some really sharp bending, which is not something, if this was a data cable, I would feel more uncomfortable about it. But essentially this angle, this is a right angle connector. And in order to do this, we're going to have to essentially smush the cords flat back, just like that. So it's pointing straight backwards, and hope that that's enough clearance. I kind of suspect it may not be, but we'll find out if I can get it flat enough here. Seems like in hindsight that may not have been the best design choice, in which case we may have to abandon that and call that a fail on the chassis design, because this power cord is not something unusual or unfamiliar. This is a pretty standard power cable for SATA drives. So yeah, we'll get to the drive bays. They actually have those on there. We're actually going to have to bail on this one. I cannot get that to a straight enough angle on there. Now, with that said, if for some reason in your part discovery you have in your possession a SATA power connector that goes at goes straight towards the device instead of curving at a 90-degree angle like this guy does, then that would actually work for you. But in this particular case, it's not going to work. So we'll have to bail on that one, and we'll have to hook it up to the normal drive bays. Now, as Zyphon was saying in the chat about the rubber mountings on here, these guys, the actual drive bay cages, they actually have rubber mounting points right inside here on either edge. Now, here's a little funny anecdote. I'm used to the screw holes on laptop drives mostly, and solid state drives, because that's what I deal with the most. And those guys typically have screws that are on the sides and bottom that are literally in the same place. Like, these screw holes are literally intersecting each other, so you could not put screws both in the side and the bottom. The screws literally overlap. Well, funny part on here is that I didn't realize that on 3.5-inch drives there were actually screws on the bottom that were in a narrow pattern. So whenever I was initially looking at the drive bays, I realized, I was like, wait, how is a mechanical hard drive going to fit in here? This doesn't seem like this makes any sense. And of course, when I'm looking, I realize, yeah, that's actually there actually are holes on a mechanical hard drive in that position for that. So, food for thought. We're going to set those aside here. This guy is going to go right back in here and marked as useless. By the way, NZXT, if you ever watch this, that was a horrible idea. Unless you're going to provide me with a converter to straighten up my ID, or my, not IDE, my SATA power connector. Don't give me a damn bracket that's worthless because nothing fits it. Food for thought. When we're down here, since I've got enough of these guys in, so this is our TPM module right here. That guy is going to go right in here. There we go. I actually want to put that guy in now because we're going to need to fuss with that here in a minute. And now I have literally this huge bag of screws, you know, the ones that I tried to use incorrectly last time. Yeah, those are for this here. Should be. I also have those screws too. No, those are not it. Okay, so what I was talking about on here, so you guys can see it up close. And I'm doing this just so I can flip you guys off, by the way. That's really what this is all about. We have 4 screws on the bottom, and those are actually what we're going to be using, because those are what mounts to the rubber mounting points here. So I'll get those put in real quick. I'm going to use my lap because apparently I don't have enough normal desk space. No, I actually tried to bend the wire straight. It literally, this bracket sits nearly flush, and I could actually pop that through and see. I tried to bend it flat, but there was literally the plastic bracket for the connector itself was just too much space in there. It was not aptly designed for this. Not at all. I think I still might have the wrong screws. See, I just have this problem. You know, I just keep getting myself screwed everywhere I go, right? To be fair, the screws that I was supposed to have on here, I'm pretty certain were actually longer by a little bit. I think these are the slightly shorter 632 screws. We'll find out. If these guys don't actually hold, then we'll know that these are too short to be using here. In which case, that won't work either. Yeah, it was a bad design. It really makes me wonder, because I don't know. I could have swore I've seen a picture, because this is not a new design, right? So the Noctis 450 and the H440, I believe, use a similar design, so it's not something new. So I kind of wonder if it was something that maybe Seasonic has slightly steeper connectors than other brands do. I don't know. I doubt that, because they're pretty standardized. Almost all the power cords I've seen, for the most part, are fairly similar with their adapters. Now, the power cords themselves will be different, which is why, as Zyphon and I were talking last night, you never, ever, ever, ever want to use power cords from one power supply on another power supply. That's specific, from one power supply to another. Now, the addendum to that is, if you get third-party power supply cables, like they have custom wrapped cables or whatever, those are a different story. Those are kind of designed for compatibility. But if you have, like, say, a Seasonic power supply, and then you have a Cooler Master power supply, it is not recommended that you ever mix the cords up on those. Okay. Should be able to sit right here. And I'm moving this guy right here. This is the big drive. And the reason why I'm going to set this guy here, there we go, is because I figured this guy should be nicely out of the way of both the water cooling tubes and of our graphics card. So, by the way, this guy is now sitting right up here. I'm going to angle it, and that's our 3.5-inch drive. Simple as that. And we're not going to install it yet, because we're going to go back to our cable management here. But for a smaller drive, a 2.5-inch drive bay, essentially there are screws here and here. You're not using the rubber mounted screws because you don't need those for a solid state drive. You're going to be using the center screws, which do not require anything special. I actually already have the screws that I was using before. I'm going to put those right back in. Of course, you want to line these up first. There we go. Well, there is now the actual with power supplies. You may notice the actual cables may be wrapped differently. For example, with my old power supply, which was some off-brand, I can't even remember the name of it. It was Fatality branded, but it was what the hell even was it? It wasn't XFX. I don't remember. It was a cheap power supply. Let's be honest. Whatever the case is, that guy had red and black cables because that was all about the Fatality. I don't even know, honestly. I know Fatality was an MLG gamer. I can't remember what game he played anymore. Back from like 2010, so maybe it was CSGO or something like that. You never really know. Whatever the case is, he struck some great branding deals, honestly. Guy probably raked in more money on his branding deals than he did on fucking actually winning tournaments. Hello, Tyler Brook. Hi, how are you doing? I always wonder, is it considered polite if you see one of your Twitch friends has started watching your stream? Do you call them out or do you let them lurk? That's always the question. Because I always see some of the folks that are on my stream team will pop in my streams and lurk. And I never actually say anything to them because I figure it's polite. If they want to say something, they'll actually say hello in the chat. But I always want to be like, I see you. I know you're lurking. Alright. So that guy is now affixed on there. And that's pretty straightforward. That's your 2.5-inch normal SATA SSD mounted on the drive cage. And he goes in there just like those guys are. But we're not going to do that yet. We want to get our cables sorted first before we start clearing those up. So let's go ahead and get that started on there. First, I'm going to take a sip because I've been chatting a lot more apparently. Got to get that like the advertising after you take a sip of a beverage. Part of the equation on there. By the way, can I say I love that the rubber feet on this, by the way. It's great. Let's pick it up there. So something that drives me nuts, and I think this is actually deliberately designed this way, but the front filter on here drives me nuts that it's slightly curved. So if I just, like the magnets on the top, sit up there, it doesn't actually sit all the way flush. It like springs out. And then if you hook it in the bottom properly, then it's in there straight and fine, but it just feels weird to me. Anyway, alright. Moving on then. So back to cable management. So we've got our big ass Hydra here. We've got this crazy mess of cords. So what are we going to do? So we have a couple options. So in the motherboard, they're nice enough to provide zip ties, which are great to a certain respect because they're neat and clean and you can cut them off and all that. However, they're single use. Once you use them, you can't unuse them, and if you ever need to unbundle cords, you have to cut them, which I always have this nervous thing of cutting zip ties because I'm always afraid I'm going to cut into a cord I don't want to when I'm trying to snip the thing with scissors. So I never use them. However, one of the things that I do like is that they typically will wrap the zip tie bundle in a twisty tie. I have so many fucking twisty ties, you would not believe it. Like, just from the amount that have been thrown in here and various cable wrap-ups, I have literally probably 10 of them around here. Twisty ties are easy to get a hold of. You can get them all over the damn place. They're reusable. You untwist them, twist them back as much as you need. And they're just generally good to use, and you can find them in links. Like there's one of them that I got here. This guy, you guys might be able to see that. Let's get it more in the reflective light. This guy is like super long. It's probably, I want to say 8 to 10 inches long twisty tie. I can't remember what was wrapped up in it, but he's super long. What you would do with this, guys, you don't want anything this long. You would probably cut this 3 times and get 3 good twisty ties out of it. That would be my recommendation. Don't try to use anything that long by itself. You're just wasting space. But I have a bunch already there, and some more over here, and some here. I've got twisty ties everywhere. So that's gonna get into our cable management on here. So I'm gonna get those guys all down front and center because I can never remember where the hell they are anymore. All right, that's at least a good start on here. We've got another one here. All right, so most of these are pretty short, but we're not gonna need terribly long ones here. So what we want to do there, we've already got some of our stuff bundled up here. There's just a few extra pieces that I want to get kind of ran. First of all, this USB 3 guy is kind of obnoxious. So I want to get this guy tucked away. If you can, you either want to try to take him up or down. If you notice, when I'm going up, I pull it and hey, I don't have really enough tension to get it up to here. I might be able to do that. Let's see. He got all twisted up here. Of course, the problem I have, again, and I mentioned this last night, it drives me crazy. When they put these damn things in, when they bundle up the wires, they literally do it for speed, not for actual good use. So it ends up looking like crap. But that'll give us a chance to work with these guys as well. And we do have some things already bundled. So for example, I already have cords bundled up here. And you guys probably can't see that very well. Tilt the camera up just a little bit there. Okay, so I've got cords bundled, already have a twisty tie tying down cords from the LEDs, I'm assuming. Yeah, those are LEDs. I'm going to take this fan cord here and I'm actually going to tie him back there, just where he naturally feels. You know, it's just a natural feel to where that he should be there. He's already there. You know what I mean? And then we just kind of secure him off to the side. And then, hey, we're not going to be able to quite reach this guy, but this cord here, we're probably going to take both of the fan cords. Let's see if we can get these guys in a little bit better spot here. I try to avoid having them go across the back of the motherboard right here. You kind of look at this as the danger zone. Just leave the cords where they are. They're good to go. Yeah. Okay, guys, we're done. Just slap the back on here. It's fine. Now, so why do we do cable management? What is the reasoning that people go on and on and on about cable management? Well, cable management, fundamentally, if you do good cable management, your case has better airflow because you keep the cords tucked away out of the main area of the case, and that allows more air to flow through the center of the case. Well, obviously, that's not necessarily as important to me because I have water cooling. It still is somewhat, because water cooling only cools the CPU itself. Most people don't realize the motherboard needs cooled. Not just the GPU, but the motherboard does. The hard drives need to be cooled. Like literally all of the parts that are in that computer are going to be producing heat. So you need to make sure that they can get the proper air they need. And that's why getting all of your cords sorted out of the way is actually pretty important on there. Now, you don't have to really do a whole lot. You can literally just try to tuck them all in the back, and as long as the back cover fits on, then hey, you know, they're not in the front of the case, right? Well, the thing is the reason why I still insist on doing it, and I'm trying to hook up this damn power supply back here. I had to unhook this power so I could pull out the power supply last night. And good God, trying to get these cords, just finding them by hand is a pain in the ass. Anyway, yeah, this really feels like it's more difficult than it should be. Anyway, so no, for real, that it feels like it's a lot more difficult than it really should be. Hey guys, if you don't hear from me in like an hour, I got lost inside my own case. Send a search party. But yeah, so the thing is though, is that the other nice thing, and this is something that everybody who works in IT infrastructure knows, is that good cable management, proper cable management, makes tracking down problems a lot easier. Good job, it's not fixed in there all the way. I want it to latch. It really does. So if you need to find one fan cord and you've just got everything haphazardly thrown in the back, it's gonna make trying to find that one cord a nightmare for you. You should find them by smell instead. Yeah. However, you do not want everything so tightly packed that it is impossible to actually get to anything. I say this specifically because in some PC communities, someone will throw up a picture of a server that has all of the trunk lines, Ethernet cables, and all of that stuff tightly bundled, tucked neatly to the sides, and they're like, it is literally super organized, everything super tightly packed, tied up with cable ties, zip ties, whatever, and they're tucked off into little corners and crevices so they look neat and very pretty. And you look at any network engineer is going to look at that and say, fuck this, I quit. Why? Because you can't find a goddamn thing if you need to. If you have a problem line, there's actually a tool they can use to actually identify lines. They actually just run this little scanner over the cord, and they can track it where it runs through a building. However, once you get to a switch and you have all of those cords bundled up tight in there, they can't fucking find it. In a real switch, where real buildings have their Ethernet wired, you will actually see them in loosely packed rows that are nice and neat, but very loose and easily accessible. And that's the major key, easily accessible. Yeah, that's something that you never hear him talk about, and every time I see it, I'm like, no, this is not good cable management. This is good cable management for your home PC, where you don't need to access cords. I still would preferably say, yeah, you should probably have that easily accessible just in case. Now, I'm also, while I'm doing this, if there's stuff that I know that I'm going to need to run up to the front, I'm running up to the front now. I'm trying to get everything down here tucked up and kind of tightened up as much as possible. The main ones I'm dealing with are kind of these stiff wires here in the middle. And honestly, I'm actually going to, while I'm thinking about this, going to unplug the fan cords so I can tuck the USB cable down like this, and then I'm going to plug the fan cords back in over top of them. Demystifying in cable management. One of the big things I always say, kind of layer things. You know, if something doesn't seem to fit quite right because it's over top of another thing, don't be hesitating to track down, unplug it, and then run it underneath or over top of something else, which is what I just did there. The two radiator fans for the water cooler don't seem to go quite well running underneath the USB 3 header. The USB 3 header. And then now, plug it back in here. This will make it a little bit easier for us. Now this guy I may run here. I'm trying to see how this is going to work best. And will this guy also run that way? This is also why I was talking about why you what? Yeah. So something else too. There are desktop now that you're not going to find a lot of these anymore because a lot of your towers don't even have 5 1/4 inch drive bays. But once upon a time, there were some cases that would have a large number of 5 1/4 inch drive bays. And people would say, well, I'm not going to need that many disks in my computer. Well, they weren't for disks. They were actually for hot swappable RAID drive arrays, which is something you don't really see anymore. It's kind of a dying art form. Xiphon uses an actual RAID array in his computer, but to actually see the hot swappable bays, I don't really see them much at all anymore. Like hot plugging is not really a thing anymore. It's kind of sad because that was kind of a cool thing to be able to do, is like, you know, have like essentially cassette tapes, but instead of being cassette tapes, they were hard drives of whatever storage value. They were mechanical hard drives, and you would you know, just swap them out whenever you needed to change a disc, so to speak. Literally, that's actually literally about what it was. Okay. I thought I had another short twisty tie somewhere on here. Am I dropping this? Yes, I am. Dropping twisty ties on the floor. Oh. Hold him like you're trying to strangle a snake. No, actually, this point in time, we're actually trying to hold them like we're at one of those special parties where, you know, if you're gonna be doing it, you might as well be pulling the hair while you're at it, if you know what I mean. And yes, PC building is one giant innuendo, in case anybody is curious. One giant innuendos. Yeah. In fact, I'm pretty certain that I'm not going to be installing Windows on this computer. I'm going to be installing Innuendos on this computer instead. Innuendos 10, I hear, is a pretty good operating system. I actually have the enterprise version of Innuendos. Ha 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 ha. It's punny, guys. Get it? Anyway. I don't know why they let me out in public. Okay. Big, thick fucking power cords. No, I'm actually going to use this longer guy here, because we have the big bundle here. Yeah, you've got these little tabs all over the case here that are specifically for tying down cables. They're specifically for cable management. So definitely make use of them. The big thing on here is that we're essentially trying to keep this fairly flat. The only guy that's going to be of a concern that we're going to be fixing here is that obnoxious giant power cable here. Mainly because of the way the thing was bent out of the box, because they folded it up. It's got this ugly bend to it, but you guys can start to see the kind of general theme that's coming together here. We're gonna untie this guy down here at the bottom. This should secure the last of the main group of cords, and that is actually, believe it or not, about the most we really need to do with the cable management from this point. Now, once we get all of the power cords plugged in, we are going to be doing a bit more, and you'll see that as it comes here. There we go. It's not really an art form. Like, a lot of people say that it has to be done pretty. It actually does not, because once you get all of your basic ties done, you literally just start tucking shit away. And that's literally it. Now, the two guys we want to have out and ready here are these last two power cords, which we're actually going to be running through this bottom rubber grommet here. These guys are actually going to come through here, and this guy should be running up top. We're going to find out if we can get this guy. Oh, yeah, that's right. We have to pull him back through. I pulled this guy out to show you guys this cord, but I remembered that he's actually going to be going a different direction, so we actually don't want him pulling out the back here. This is for the CPU. It's going up to the very top of the motherboard, not out the front. So we want to feed him back through, just like so. Because we're going to try and see if we can get this up here. Oh, and by the way, in case you guys forgot, we have the obnoxious, the radiator from hell that always gets in our way. It is a fortunate thing that I'm not dealing with my old power supply, which actually this cord right here was too short. And I could not actually reach it all the way up to the top here. Okay. Come on. Go. I'm trying to remember the key on here. Yes, I believe it goes this way. Have room. Barely have any room. Like literally, we're talking millimeters of space back here that I'm trying to fit this through. And this is now the thing is that this could have been done one of two ways. If you already know the parts you're putting in here, which is rare, but if you already know all the parts you're putting in here, we could have installed this guy from the start and just fed him through there so we knew where he was. I'm doing this build completely blind. I had no idea how tight the fit was going to be up here. So I'm kind of doing the normal thing, which is we don't want to have to uninstall everything just to put in this one cable. So we will just gently work him through until it fits. Just you know, you just gotta play with it for a bit. Give it compliments, maybe put on some slow music, you know, give it a massage. Those are usually things to help it warm up and relax, you know, so that way the, you know, pushing it through is not as painful. I hope everybody's having a good Friday night. I'm really wanting to get this guy finished and done. Hopefully have it ready for the podcast tomorrow. By the way, anybody didn't know, Pixel Crashers does a podcast every other Saturday. We're going to be talking about console exclusives this coming Saturday. It's going to be amazing. Oh yeah, OCZ, that was the brand of that old power supply. Yeah, it was junk. It was, and it was $30, and it performed. Well, the thing is, to be fair, it still works. After 4 years of staying on almost constantly, I've not had a problem with it. So for what it's worth, for being a cheap brand of power supply and being relatively low quality, I give that guy props for actually being at least somewhat reliable. I would definitely not recommend it in like an OCZ brand in a high-end build. I would pretty much say go with the trusted, you know, Cooler Master, Corsair, Seasonic, EVGA. Those are the brands that are kind of the old faithful, reliable ones. Come on. Oh, for fuck's sake. Trying to get that right angle, you know, whenever the cord is too big, you know, you don't want to force it in there, because that just doesn't feel really good, and you'll end up with problems later on down the line. Let's be honest. You want to let it relax, and that way you can kind of ease the cord in there. I'm trying to be lighthearted about this because I just can't get it past that damn IO shield here. I wonder. I have a sneaky idea, guys. Just a little bit. Because I think I can slide the radiator forward a bit. Yes, I think I can. And that should be enough space. Now I can slide it forward a little bit. I don't know if that's going to be enough, though. We'll find out. It is. Holy shit, guys. Holy shit. That was just enough space for what I needed. Then we have the part of being able to plug a cable into a hole. Oh, come on. This is the moment why I have music playing in the background, so that way hearing my random grunts and swearing under my breath isn't as noticeable. Okay, I think there it is. Yes. All right. Let's tighten this girl back up here. I am actually going to add in more screws to that top radiator just because I want to make sure that it's stable enough. OCZ solid state drives have been compared to NASCAR. Either they go really fast or they crash and burn. How true. Fortunately enough, I have never bought into theirs. For solid state drives, I stick pretty much to Samsung, although Obviously, my first solid state drive, Ivan will know because he bought it for me, was Kingston. But since then, I've been pretty solidly in the Samsung camp. With the 750 and now going to the 960. I feel like they're, right now at least, they are the kind of trusted brand for that. Now, that's not to say that that will stay the same. I mean, we've got Intel constantly trying to push the envelope. Intel has a new technology. I know that they're trying to get on there, the 3D X point technology. And then, of course, we had Western Digital bought up several solid state manufacturers trying to get in there because Western Digital was kind of the king of mechanical hard drives. And they realized, of course, that everything is going solid state. So they wanted to make sure they still had a horse in the race, so to speak. All right, so we got that guy. He should be okay. I'm going to affix him over here, actually, just to make sure that he, like I said, I try to keep everything out of this general area. This is kind of the no-go zone, if you will. Let me put that light up just a little bit so you guys can see a bit better. I try to keep everything out of the backplate zone. So I'm going to tie this guy down right over here just to make sure that he stays out of the way. You don't have to obviously tie this guy down super tight since he's a ribbon, but we do want to make sure that he's secure and stays over here. Over here is fine, and nobody's going to bug him over there. So, that being said, I think we've got that part handled. So, we've got most of our stuff tucked up under here where it's not going to be noticeable. And like I said, this doesn't look so fancy, but when you see me turn it around, you're going to be like, holy shit, where are all the cords at? And that's what it's meant to do. But first, like I said, we're going to take these guys, feed them through the lower grommet over here, because these are going to be for the graphics card here in a minute. And you, like with some tips I've seen, or some, guides on building PCs, they always do the cable management at the end, and I never understand why. Because cable management is something that's easier to do ongoing as you're building, rather than doing it at the very end. Who knows? To each their own, I suppose, but I personally recommend to do little bits here and there as you're building the PC. It's going to make your life a lot easier. Now, this guy, we're actually going to go ahead. Let's go ahead and plug this in. By the way, you can see how much I tried to straighten this guy. That's as straight as that connector would go, by the way, Xiphon. So, unfortunately, it wasn't quite enough. So, we're going to plug this guy in, and then later on, we're going to have the other guy. Let's see. I'm going to draw a line. This is about where our graphics card's going to go. So, if we put this guy in up here, this should be safe. And this way, you guys can also see the backside of how these install. They're pretty straightforward. They've got thumb screws that hook them in. And now the thing is when I go to install the graphics card, if the graphics card, it looks like it's getting in the way of that, this guy can easily move, and that's the main benefit on here. But we hook up the power, but like I said, we're not hooking up the data cables as of yet, and you guys notice that because when I go to boot the computer, I only want one hard drive plugged in. That's the thing, is I don't want multiple hard drives, and those hard drives there have data already on them, which is something that will definitely mess with our build later on. So anyway, so what we've got here, we got all our cables managed for the most part. This big guy is gonna get in our way, but he's gonna keep doing that. So now, what we do is, this is kind of our first moment of truth on here. That's right. Before I get too far ahead and I start plugging these things up here, there is one connector I forgot because this is an unusual one. This is our LED connector on here. And I know it is because it says RGB 12 volt. We actually, and this comes from the controller down here at the bottom, we have LED headers on this thing. You just need to see them because they're really tiny. Yay! I believe it's that guy. There's actually a couple of them on here, and I believe, yeah, those are the ones. All right, so I'm going to turn it around here so you guys can see, or hopefully see. There's a couple of them in this case. The one I'm going to be running it to is this guy down here. This little white guy with pins on him. That's actually one of the LED headers on the motherboard. The benefit to this is where reason why I bought these guys in tandem. This will allow the Aura software, hopefully, to run the case LEDs. So actually, it doesn't give us a. So it's 12V GRGB. Okay, so should be this direction. Now what I'm doing here is I'm tilting back so I can get the light in there and see and make sure that I'm actually plugging this in the correct way, because each one of these pins does a very specific thing. On the cord here itself, we see BRG 12 volt, essentially blue, red, green, and 12 volt connector. We have matching labels on this header, and that's essentially how we're plugging it in here. There we go, just like that. And obviously tuck him back in, and you guys are seeing what I'm talking about the cords. Now, this guy, I have a feeling we're going to be doing more to clean up the AIO on here, just because I feel like this guy is a little bit messy, but I want to make sure it works and everything's set there first. We also have, and this cracked me up yesterday, normally you have a kind of block of these little 2-pin guys that are together that have to deal with the buttons on the front of the case. Well, this guy only has a power button, so he only has the power button connector. The power LED is actually managed through the RGB system. So we've got our little header block down here, and I'm looking for the power SW headers, which, if you guys remember, that's how I tripped the there we go. That's how we turn the motherboard on my other motherboard without the power button. If it jams, force it. If it breaks, then it needs replacing anyway. Yeah, don't do that. Now what I'm gonna double check on here is make sure that my my front panel connector, I'm doing the right one on here. So that's 120. Okay. And now on here, this guy will show you the manual if we can get the lighting correctly. Yeah, and that's going to be a trick and a half. Essentially, I've got a diagram right here of each one of my plugins and what they do. And I can see on here that the power button and ground are right there. Okay, so that's pretty straightforward, fortunately. Getting them there is going to be a trick, though. Okay. So it's the last two, the 4, and then the space. Okay. Now, and something else too is that I'll note on here, just to make sure people know, is with these power connectors on here, you technically, in some cases, could connect them vertically or horizontally. However, I would not recommend doing that. I totally just forgot. I looked at that, saw which one was the ground, and then I completely just forgot it. Because I'm brain dead like that sometimes. Okay, so... This guy also has a chassis intrusion detector, which is kind of fascinating. Where is my... Oh, there we go. So the left pin is my hot wire. Okay, so on the connector itself, there will be a little arrow, which you guys probably can't see because it's really small, a little arrow on one of them. That is actually the hot wire, if you will. You can also note this by the color of the wire. If you have a red and black wire, the black is the ground, or if you have a striped and a solid wire, the striped is the hot one. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and put this guy in here. There we go, just like that. Alright, now he's plugged in. He's tucked back here. Now our power button is set, ready to go. There is one cord here that I'm going to also tie off really quick. It was that LED header cord. I'm going to make sure it's tied off because that was dangling free back here. So same thing as before, just untying a twisty tie, then tying it back. That's all. So now that that's done, finally I can get on there. A fine full set of hair. Yes, yes I do. And by hair, of course, I mean cords. No, I actually have way too much hair. Oops. There we go. And now with the back panel on here, obviously you have limited space back here, which this is another trick of cable management, is keeping the cables shallow, because if you don't, it does become slightly more difficult to get this case back on in the back here. But in general, if you did everything like I did on here, it shouldn't be too terribly difficult to essentially just squish everything until it fits. You think I'm joking? I'm actually gonna put this front like this so you guys can actually see what I'm doing on here. And we literally just kind of settle it down, give it a little wiggle, and you'll notice that it tends to mash itself out quite nicely. And of course you make sure that your door latches, because for fuck's sake, that's annoying as hell. There we go. Nope, one of the latches didn't match. And I know what you're thinking to yourself. You're thinking, why is this not fitting on here correctly? It's because, well, Casey doesn't know the front of the computer from the back. Good God. I'm used to computers that have don't have a removable, or the removable front is a little bit trickier. Whatever. That's why those weren't latching right, by the way. Anyway, so now we've got that guy tightened on there. All of them feel straight and nice and pretty. And now we have our squeaky legs, but our back panel is now in place. Cable management is done, and now there we go. That's with all cables installed. Right there, just like that. No big mess and bundle of cables anywhere. Nice and easy. So now, we're gonna tip this guy back because now comes the special part. This is the part everybody's likely been waiting for. Let's go ahead and switch it to our top-down view. Now we get out the big boy. The GTX 1080 Strix with its Aura RGB lighting. By the way, I just wanted to throw this out there for you guys while you're watching on here, just because this is great. Just because this is fantastic. So, of course, Kev the Gamer, one of our founder Pixel Crashers, has been kind of popping in here and watching the past couple of nights. Today he posted a picture that he broke down and went out and bought a GTX 1080 after he's been preaching that everybody should wait for Vega graphics card to release and that he was going to get himself a Vega card. And then he fucking goes, he sees me with a 1080, and then he's got to go out and get one. Hopefully he didn't have to take out a second mortgage on that. Alright, let's go ahead and get this guy out of the static bag. Of course, same thing as before. Since we are stealing with a static bag, you want to make sure that you are grounded whenever you're interacting with a static bag at any point in time, because you do not want to end up on the wrong side of static electricity when building the computer. So what I do is I just reach in, I grab the guy, move the static bag. I'll set him right there since that's nice and pretty. Throw him back in there and put the box over there. Making sure we're nice and grounded on here. And there, that's the beauty right there, guys. Right? Isn't that just the most gorgeous thing you've ever seen? Oh yeah. That nice eyeball staring at you guys. It knows where you live. It knows you. Anyway, so what we're gonna do on here, we've got a few things to kind of consider on here. Is that we have our, does this guy actually have a header on there? Yes, it does. Okay, so we actually have headers on the side of the card here that we're going to be dealing with in a moment here. It has the power plugs like a normal graphics card, the 8-pin and 6-pin, but then like I said, we also have stuff for the RGB lighting that we're also going to have to account for too, which is something that should be in here. It should have all the cables I need in the little side box. I tried to leave everything as intact and possible so I don't lose track of shit, you know, because that's never happened to me before. Don't judge, you know you've done it. Okay. Oh yeah, I also forgot that I have the little Velcro ties in there. Shiny Velcro ties. I almost feel like I should use those somewhere just because they're nice and shiny and they gave them to me. Those. Now see, this is something that is a little hanky to me, and this is something I would take into consideration whenever you're putting something like this together. Now, they give you this, oh, I think it's supposed to go this way. Essentially, if you don't have enough 8-pin connectors, they give you 2 6-pin to an 8-pin transfer, essentially. This goes into your graphics card. Don't think that this end is supposed to go in there. Just clarifying. We don't need that though. We've got it handled. So, now the catch on there, like I said, is the part I'm not sure about is where those are 4-pin connectors. I believe I have extra 4-pin connectors over here. I've got 1. Because, you know, logic. This is one of the LED headers that you saw in there. Now that can be used for a lot of things, but in this particular case, I'm hoping there's a second one. I don't think there is, actually. Yeah, there's only 2 LED headers on here. So, yeah. The funny thing about it is, of course, the manual on there gives no instructions on that. So you literally have no fucking clue. But, you know, the reasons. The manual on this guy is actually extremely useless. We may not need that for anything. We'll install it, turn it on, all that good stuff, and then we'll kind of go from there. Something else I'd recommend, although this is not required at all, these cables. We're going to be doing something about the AIO cables here later. Don't worry. So whenever we're installing in there, let's take off the bracket on here. This guy is pretty simple with its setup on here. We have 2 reinforced things on here, so it's actually designed for heavier graphics card from the get-go. But first, I believe this guy uses. We'll have to get rid of these expansion bays off of here, and this guy I believe will take 3, or well 2.5, but technically 3 I think expansion bays, so we'll find out here in just a minute. And then of course we're going to be undoing some more of these screws here in a moment to install the grates that I showed you guys way back at the beginning. Let's double check. Yeah, I believe that is 3. It's not 3, no big deal. Okay. And it's only, the reason why I say 2.5 is because I think we only have to take off 2 of the actual plates. Okay, so that's where. Oh hey. By the way, double check and make sure you know which expansion bays you're taking off on here, because it's not the top one, it's the next 2 down from there. Silly. No big deal. Anyway. Go. Now this guy's a very big graphics card, so you can't just, drop him straight down in there. You actually have to kind of angle him in, if you guys noticed. And then once you angle it in, you just push him straight down. Nice even pressure. You want to keep most of your pressure on what's known as the PCB, the back panel. Now once he's in there, just because I didn't want to scratch him before that, there is this plastic panel on there. I know all of you guys that like the unwrap therapy thought that was pathetic. I don't give a shit. I really don't. That's one of those little phenomenons that I really don't get. I'll be honest with you, where they have like literally the videos of people just peeling the plastic off of shit. I really don't understand it. Actually, something I didn't check. I don't know if that's got plastic down there as well. I think it does. Okay, so we got our right drives on here, but we're not done, because we need to do the apparently we need to do the unbox therapy thing here, guys, and we have to go and unpeel the plastic from parts. I don't like leaving it on there, because if you leave it on there, I always am concerned that something's going to melt, and that's not fun. You definitely don't want shit melting on your computer. I see some bubbling around it, like right here, and that's where I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty certain that they put the damn plastic covering on here. Yeah, there it is. So we gotta do it nice and slow. That was garbage. Anyway, all right. That's off. We can finally get back to put this guy in here. Go, clicked into place, just like so. Now, get our power connectors on here. Like I said, we have one's a 6-pin, so we actually just take the 6-pin on there, drop that guy over here. Also make sure it's orientated the right direction. And whenever we install those power connectors on there, I like to give it that support on the other side just to make sure. And we have our 8-pin. We also need to twist that guy around. He is going to go like this. Now, with the 8-pin connector on there, since it does feel really wonky when you're trying to put it in, what I usually recommend is putting in the 6 pins first. And then once you have the 6 pins in, putting in the 2 pins, and they'll usually go in pretty easily. Just like so. Now, fix this guy. Yeah, I like the smell of burning plastic as well as Xiphon. It's great, especially in a brand new computer. It's nothing like the fresh burning plastic smell in a new computer. It really just gets me going. You know, I don't need coffee. I just need burning plastic. Okay. I'm actually going to remove one more screw since I'm one more down. This guy looks pretty glorious. We still have stuff to remove off of the water cooler as well, but we'll get to that guy in just a moment here. Next thing is we're going to grab our little brace. Sitting over here. Okay. Okay, so with this brace on here, so how this guy's gonna work, it's pretty simple, and I'll show you guys here in a moment. And we're gonna be cleaning up the cables here as well. Those are not gonna be left hanging like that. You don't wanna leave them hanging out in the middle. That kind of defeats the purpose, right? There we go. So essentially this guy is going to mount up. It's actually gonna take up one more, take out one more screw here. It's going to take up like this, and it's going to be supported right here. And essentially, how we want to orientate it, let me go ahead and get this last thumb screw out. What this guy is of course going to do is going to give us that extra bit of support that a card like this really needs. I really never would feel comfortable leaving a card like this to its own devices. It's just, yeah. Alright. So, we're going to orientate it like so. Can I actually get that up there? Man, is that cooler that big? Yikes. Yeah, do it like that. No, it's too much space. This guy's going to be a really tight fit on here. Because I can't quite, with how big the Ace's cooler is in there, I don't think it's quite big enough for me to do that. But moving it down any farther, it's going to be tricky. Unfortunately, I hope that that's not the case. I hope that's just my imagination. But we'll find out here in just a second. Be able to get this one in here. Because we do have these little little rubber standoffs that they've got in here. And the hope is, the real hope here is that those will generate enough space. Oh yeah, we can really put that right up at the edge. And they're just, all they are is just rubber stoppers, so that way it's not bashing solid plastic against here. So we should be able to double these up. That's why they include so many of them. We should be able to double these up and have 2 of them attached on there. That is the hope. It says it's not ideal, but in a case like this, that's what we're probably going to have to do. There we go. Okay, so with that one on there, we then are going to put it probably right here in the middle, right about here, I'd say. So right about there, and you essentially space it out to where it's not sitting on an awkward part of the fan. It's a really important part. And obviously our support is primarily going out at the far end of the graphics card, not near the base. We don't need to worry about supporting up here because this is already being supported pretty solidly. So we don't need to worry about that. What we need to worry about is over here. That's what's kind of being left all by its lonesome. So now, this guy looks pretty good. Yeah, I should hold him up. Okay. So they give me washers. Let me check something real quick here. That's why you have music playing in the background. So whenever you have to run around and do stuff, it doesn't seem like there's an unnatural silence. You know what I mean? Know what I mean? Know what I mean? Okay. Okay. Oh hell no! This guy is mine. I don't build computers for people like this. The computers that I build are workstation grade, so they're not going to be anything flashy like this. They're going to be very, very nondescript. Yes, maybe this powerful, but most certainly not anything this flashy. Okay, so we're going to line up and get our screws. Now, by the way, with this brace, you do not take out any of the expansion bays. You want those expansion bays left where they're supposed to be at. They do not go anywhere. And we're actually going to be putting one of the thumb screws back in there, obviously for that space that is not actually going to be used. So now, let's take this guy. I believe that he's going the wrong direction right now. Yeah, alright. And we're going to tighten these down until they're flush. Not all the way. We don't want to tighten them down to where we can't move it, because we want to make sure that this guy is resting against the GPU. Not pushing against it, mind you, just resting. There we go. I'm actually going to have to reposition the actual support post. Yay! As I noticed on there, as I started to line it up again, that far end support post, guess what? It was sitting literally right on the fan blade. That's no bueno. You don't want that. So I'm just having two right here, which should give it enough surface area for it to give it a good amount of rigidity and support here. And it's pushed right up against it here. Real quick, I'm going to give it a little push upwards here. There we go. Nice and tight. There we go. And now once you've got it aligned properly, it's resting against the GPU. You make sure that these are nice and tight here, because this guy, and you essentially a little mini ratchet like I do until you get this guy nice and firm in there. Now he may flex down here, that's fine. We don't need to worry about that. We want this to be really firmly in place up there. Let's put back in our last thumb screw in here that we took out and we didn't need to. There we go. Tighten. Give the GPU thumb screws a little tighten too to make sure they're in there securely, because, well, they weren't. Yeah, the thing is that as Zyphon is putting it, yes, he is 100% correct. He does build computers for people, but he usually tries to do it locally because of the risks of shipping. So now, as you guys can see on here, let me go and switch it back to the side camera here. So now you guys can see, and I'll tilt it back here so you can see a bit. Essentially what we have this nice heavy GPU, and then we have resting right on it, not on the fan though. Let me make sure. I might move these little contact points a little bit over so that way, because this guy feels like he's a little bit on the fan. But essentially what it's supposed to do is it just sits here, and this guy is very sturdy, and it's just going to support the GPU up at this end. I feel like the support brace was actually designed, believe it or not, for graphics cards that were smaller than this. As silly as that sounds. To me, I don't know, I would build my support brace to handle, like, to be for the biggest graphics cards, but I don't know, maybe I'm crazy. Okay, now it should be not touching any fans. All right. Okay, so now that that's done, let's go ahead and get our power connectors for the GPU. We're going to kind of get those guys tucked in here a little bit better, just because we want excess as much as possible to be reduced inside the case here. What time am I at? 12:46. Okay. And what I am doing on here is I'm actually kind of wrapping that 2-pin connector around so that he's out of the way. So, got that. Make sure these guys here are sitting in place properly. There we go. That is that's a hefty graphics card that's in there, so we don't want that guy to tip. Now, connect all cables before turning on. By the way, guys, at some point, as I realized this, fantastic that they kept that sticker over it, so I had no idea what was going on. The NZXT label's upside down. So at some point, whenever I'm feeling a little ambitious, I may reorientate the liquid cooler so the NZXT logo is right side up. That is a project for another day, because that pretty much involves taking the entire damn thing apart. Anyway, let's go on. Throw those thumb screws in there. Get that guy out of the way. So now we come to the moment of truth. We have what should be all of our power connectors plugged in, and everything should be set up. So now what we're going to do is we're going to get the power cord that I have had back here the whole time, just kind of sitting here waiting, and we're going to plug it in. Now, you make sure before you plug it in that that switch is off. I already know that the switch is off because I just looked at it before I flipped it around, but you yourself make sure the switch is off before you plug in the power. All right. Now, once it's plugged in and all the static has time to ground, go ahead and flip the power on here. And I'm already seeing things lighting up on here, which is awesome. It's great. Now, the big kick on here is the power button, which I don't know if I can press like this. I actually have to put the top back on here before I can press the power button, guys. Believe it or not. So let's go ahead and get that guy reinstalled here. I hate this top, by the way, because I always am nervous about it, because it has like a plastic shroud over top of a metal piece. So I always have this nervous moment of not wanting to press that plastic because I feel like it might be flimsy and it might break. There we go. Loud clinking. And here we go, guys. Which guy? And if you ever noticed that on there, by the way, we have our CPU power connector, in case you guys didn't know, was pressed up against the top fan. But holy shit, the Christmas tree works! Isn't that nice, guys? Yeah. You go ahead and put the front connector back on here. Those LEDs are really fucking bright, by the way. They're not meant to be looked at directly. I realize this. Don't make fun of me. Come on. There we go. She's in place there. Now, This is the fun one. By the way, I know this is really why many of you were tuning in the whole time. You just want to see... You just want to see this happen. The plastic being peeled off here. That screeching noise. It's like nails on a chalkboard. Isn't it glorious, guys? Still have the other side to do here. Don't worry, we're not done yet. Let's go ahead and... There we go. All right. And there she is, gentlemen. Let's go ahead and really get this going on here. Right now, of course, it's just on a kind of a pulse stream on here. As I'm looking at it too, after you put it together on here, you really obviously notice the GPU being upside down and the cords kind of going in front of it does take away from the LED lighting on the GPU. But that's something that we can remedy later on. That's not a big, huge problem. So what's going to happen to my current PC? Well, at first I was going to try to keep it and repurpose it, but after some thinking on here, more than likely what I'm going to do with it is I'm going to sell it. Because, well, it's a solid enough entry-level gaming PC, and I'm probably going to sell it for like $500 or something like that, because I mean, really, when you look at the price of all the parts in there, it was about an $800 PC, all things considered. So I think after that many years, like somewhere around there would probably be fair enough. But yeah. So anyway, this is why I called it the Christmas tree, by the way, is because you have the LEDs underneath here. Yes, it's like the cheesy Honda Civic that you guys see rolling around downtown with the underglow on there. Yeah, it's got an LED strips underneath it, and then on either side of the window. And then you have the CPU cooler and the motherboard all have that same RGB lighting. Now, we're not done though. We're not quite done. The next thing that we want to do on here, and I'm actually going to turn it off, and then I'm going to get back here. I'm going to get my actual display port, or my DVI, excuse me, my little DVI cable. To remember where I put it. It ended up buried somewhere. Oh, good God. I was trying to make room, but I set this up with the intention of saying, hey, I want to test this guy. You guys hear the shuffling, hear random noises, maybe some crashing sounds, all perfectly normal and acceptable. Please come into my office. Okay. So I'm actually hooking up a mouse and keyboard, and then also a big fat display port cable, since I have those in abundance. God, I'm glad DisplayPort's going away. Annoying ass screws and shit. Okay, so by the way, I love that the motherboard stays lit up even when it turns off. Yeah. Oh, they turn on the monitor, right? So you guys can't see it because it's literally the monitor that the camera that's pointing at this guy is sitting on. But I'm actually just checking. It says CPU fan is on. It popped up with the BIOS on here. So this guy has been configured correctly. Despite our issues with screws, and despite all of our other problems on here, let's go ahead. Let's get it real thematic in here. You know, let's make it a lot of fun just for the end for you guys, since we're kind of wrapping up on here. Three days. Yep, successful post. 3 days, 6 hours of toil. I want you to show me your PS4 or your Xbox One be as glorious as this. Because, yes, this is glorious. Well, guys, I cannot think in any point in time there being a better and fitter ending than getting to see this amazing piece of machinery. And you guys can hear it. The microphone's sitting right next to it, by the way. Hear how quiet that is? Like, literally, the microphone is sitting right next to the case. The fan noise you hear, that's how loud it is. That's maybe 3 inches away from that case. So I would say that's pretty damn quiet. Anyway, folks, so the things that I'm going to be doing to the PC that I'm not going to be showing on stream, simply because it would take too long, and I kind of want to get it done without having to kind of explain what I'm doing. I'm going to be installing Windows on there and software and all that good stuff. That is not really something that I need to do on stream here, because the complicated part is that people think is building the PC, and that's not really something that we need to do on here. Anyway, guys, I'm gonna kind of fade it out on here. You guys got to see this amazing build, i7 7700K, the GTX 1080, all the shiny goodness. All in all, this Noctis 450 ROG case looks fucking amazing. The waiting for the second iteration of this case was well worth it. I definitely want to thank them for getting the case out to me early, so I could get this case done, or get this build done before the end of February, beginning of March. Although I'm still waiting for the screws. Anyway, I'm going to get signed off here for the night, guys. I just want to thank everybody that stopped by. Obviously, as I've been saying from the beginning, well, the one thing I've been saying from the beginning is read the Go Ram manual, or I'll sick the hero of Canton after you. The other part of that is that if you have any questions, even if you feel like it's a stupid question, only stupid question is the one you don't ask. If you have any questions, in the bottom down below, boo, what did you do? Stop saying bad stuff. I have no idea what you said, man. I didn't catch it in time. Okay, cool, man. Thanks a lot. Yeah, sometimes Moobot's a little overzealous. But in any case, if if you have any questions at all, even if it feels like a stupid one, on Twitch, down in the little panels down at the bottom, you'll see one of them talking about our Discord server. In YouTube, down at the bottom, you will find in the description of this video a link to my Discord server. You will also find links to my Twitter. Or you can leave a comment on here. Ask away. You know, if it's on our Discord server, we have a couple of people that are fairly well experienced with putting computers together. Zyphon, who's been on Twitch this whole time, chatting away, he actually, like he said, he builds PCs for people for a living. Although he doesn't ship them, unfortunately, because, yeah, I agree with him, that does feel a little bit dangerous to me, just because they're very delicate. But aside from that, seriously, get your ass away from the consoles. They're ripping you off. I kid you not. In the years that I put together my PC, my first PC a few years ago, and if you added up the $60 a year for Xbox Live alone, not counting the greater amount of money I would have paid for games, just that $60 a year for Xbox Live Gold, I could have bought that computer over again. So food for thought on there. You know, seriously, I'm not even kidding. You really need to get away from it. PC, it's not only can you do really cool shit and have really shiny PCs like this if you save up like I did. I've been saving up for years to do this. You know, so it's not like, and you don't need to upgrade all the time. This PC here that I'm building now, the reason why I saved up and got what I wanted is because I'm going to be using this thing for probably, you know, at least 5+ years. This is not, chances are I'm not going to be upgrading a lot of the stuff in here for a long time. So that's just food for thought, what you need to consider on there. In any case, the last kind of bit I'll put on there is just really, I want to get people away from consoles because consoles are fucking with people. They're ruining the gaming industry. I want you guys to experience PC gaming with us. I want you to see how much fun it is. I want you to have fun playing PC games with me. I don't want you to get away from consoles because I don't like you. I want you to get away from PC consoles because I want you to experience the fun that I do having my choice of peripherals, whether I want to use a controller, a keyboard, a flight stick, a G13, I have options. You know, if I don't get a good deal for a game from Steam, I can go to Origin, I can go to Uplay, I can go to GOG, I can go to a lot of other authorized retailers that are competing to get you the best price. You won't find that on console. I want you to not have to pay $60 fucking a year to use your own damn internet connection. You're getting ripped off. Anyway, with that, your Xbox friends, listen, first of all, you can actually chat with your Xbox friends already on your Windows 10 device. There's an Xbox app on there, so you can still chat with them. If enough people are on PC, Xbox is actually trying to push cross-play really heavily. You know, the thing is that if Sony doesn't buck up soon enough, I think Xbox is just going to roll over them and start doing cross-play for all of their games. They already did it with Gears of War. Gears of War is cross-play between Xbox and PC. If I'm playing the game on PC, I got friends on Xbox, I can play Gears of War 4 with them. Kev the Gamer does it all the time. You can ask him about it. Well, not all the time, but he does it. He has Gears of War 4 and cross-plays it with Xbox players. So your friends that are on Xbox, guess what? They can be your friends on PC as well. Sony is the real guy who is kind of against it right now because Sony is the biggest console. They have the market lead. They have the control, they have the power, which means they're going to do everything in their power to keep you inside their prison. And I say prison deliberately. Anyway, I'm going to get signed off here for the night, guys. It's been a lot of fun building this computer for you. It's definitely been loads of amazing fun. I'm going to have a lot of fun with this PC. It's going to be amazing. I'm going to get signed off here for the night. You guys enjoy your weekend. Have a lot of fun. Again, if you have any questions, definitely seek me out. Ask in our Discord. We got a lot of people in there that will be willing to help you. This has been Angelus the Mortiel, and I'm going to go ahead and get signed off here for the night. Cheers.